Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. An Afternoon of the Macabre. It's a marvelous title for the music that we're going to be doing this afternoon. I can't say that I have a long history with our composer friend here today. We have just begun crossing paths, just the end of the spring term, and we started communicating. And Michael's approach to me was to prepare the chorus for Frankenstein. Fate turns different ways, and suddenly I'm here and performing as the conductor for this entire afternoon of wonderful music that this phenomenal talent as a composer. Dr. Karasis is at best a modern-day Renaissance man. And you're going to see that in all of the demonstrations of his artwork and the music that he's written, and as a narrator and playing in the ensemble today. So he's an amazing, talented man, and we're going to be privileged to experience this music today. The Prometheus. Prometheus is a tone poem. It's telling a story. If you are familiar with the Prometheus fable, it comes out of essentially Greek mythology. And Prometheus decided that human beings deserved to have intelligence. It has a lot of similarities to the apple story in Christianity and Judaism. Instead of Eve giving Adam the apple, Prometheus wants to give flame to humans, which represents not just fire, but also the wisdom of technology and having its impact. And that's what this particular piece of music will tell you, the story it will tell. We will hear Prometheus come out and discover that he wants to sneak around and find the flame and bring it to humanity. We will hear that Zeus discovers that the flame is missing and the search for who it is that took it. We're going to hear the big argument in Mount Olympus over what we should do with Prometheus now that we have discovered that he was the one that took the flame. And that is what has given humanity this growth and sudden flourish of technology and knowledge. And finally, Prometheus' fate at the end, as he is eternally damned, being chained to a rock, ultimately to have his liver eaten out by a large bird every day for the remainder of eternity. The liver was, in the Greek period, was actually where people felt that the soul of an individual was. And so the fact that he would have his soul removed from him during the day slowly by this giant bird and then renewed the next day to go through the same agony and torture the next day is quite a fate for this. So that's my saying on what you're going to be listening to today. We're also going to be able to see now on the monitors here a little bit of a prologue for the piece as well.
It is in ancient Greece when a prominent yet arrogant citizen of the upper class seeks his own personal treasure, far beyond those of mortal men. Prometheus seeks immortality and comes to a plan to seize his end, to climb the sacred slopes of Mount Olympus and visit the forbidden realm of the gods themselves. It is here where all mankind seeks its favor, worships the almighty power of Zeus, the wisdom of Athena, and the grace of Aphrodite. Here, Prometheus beholds the divine Olympian torches of fire, that he alone will bestow upon mankind and thus himself become immortal. Holding tight a flaming sacred torch and descending the mountains, unseen with the forbidden gift. But the all-powerful Zeus sees all things, condemning in wrath Prometheus to eternal damnation. For his lack of piety and sinful arrogance, Prometheus is chained atop a rocky crag, surrounded by an endless sea, forever bound, forever tortured by a sacred vulture, darting each morning from the sky to peck at his liver in endless and recurring torment. And so, through the destruction of its bearer, fire is bestowed upon mankind.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Karasis, and I'd like to welcome you all here today for the continuation of today's performance, performed by the Orchestra of the Macabre under the direction of Maestro Scott Udenberg. Edgar Allan Poe, born the same year as Abraham Lincoln, 1809, was a man of somber and troubled disposition as he looked for recognition as an author and a poet. On May 16, 1836, the 27-year-old Edgar Allan Poe married his 13-year-old cousin, Virginia Clem, in Baltimore. Her age was listed as 21. The two were amazingly happy together, transforming Poe's personality completely when in his wife's company. They were often seen in the city park playing hopscotch and laughing out loud. In 1842, Virginia began coughing up blood, a sign of consumption in those days called now tuberculosis, which at the time was almost universally fatal. In 1845, Poe published The Raven. Virginia died 2 years later. Poe often visited her grave in the tomb of the cemetery at night, even in the winter, cold and freezing. Mysteriously, in October of 1849, Edgar Allan Poe was found unconscious and face down in a muddy Baltimore street, dressed in ragged and ill-fitting clothes that were believed not to be even his own. He died 4 days later with alcoholic hallucinations. Some historians have regarded The Raven as Poe's expression of the impending doom of his beloved wife. The poem is written in trochaic octameter, strings of 8 syllables with emphasis on the first, third, fifth, and seventh of each pair, captivating the ear to this very day. Ladies and gentlemen, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Once, upon a midnight dreary, as I wandered on wandered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping as if someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "only this and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember. It was in the bleak December, when each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I had wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my book surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless now forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger. Hesitating then no longer, "Sir," I said, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you." Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal has ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again, I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, and with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mine of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling by the stern and grave decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, be sure, note craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore, tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marvel this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on that placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther than he fluttered, no more than he uttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, their friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by a reply so abruptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it says is it's only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiling my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining, with the lamplight gloating o'er, but whose velvet violet lining, with the lamplight gloating o'er, she shall press. Ah, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from some unseen censer swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tuffet floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee. Respite and nepenthe from the memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, whether tempest sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate, yet all undaunted on this desert isle enchanted. on this home by horror haunted. Tell me truly, I implore. Is there balm in Gilead? Tell me truly, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, by the heaven that bends above us, by the God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aegean it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take my form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on that pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming. And the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul, from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted. Never more. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I welcome you to the second half of this afternoon's performance. But before that, I'm proud to announce another concert of several of my works here at the Performing Arts Center on Saturday, September 28th at 3 p.m. We will be performing a work based on a lecture given at Stanford University by astronomer Carl Sagan. Some of you might have heard this lecture, called A Pale Blue Dot. Basically, it talks about the insignificance of planet Earth amongst the vast emptiness of the cosmos. We'll also be performing the premiere of my first piano concerto. And in the audience, the individual to whom this is dedicated will be coming from the Ukraine and be in the audience. And on the second half of this concert I'm describing, we will go to Scotland, and we'll do a performance of Hail Scotland for orchestra, pipes, Irish whistle, harp, 4 recorders, and choreographed and performed by the Judith Svalander Dance Theater Company. It'll be a great night, believe it. Afternoon. Hope you can all be with us on September 28th. In today's performance of Frankenstein, orchestra, chorus, narrator, and visual images will combine to present the story of Frankenstein's creature that resulted from a man and his ambition. This 19th century masterpiece, written in 1818 by the 19-year-old Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, combines the story of Frankenstein that we well know and will carry with us for the rest of our lives. In 19th century, things were a lot different than now. Superstition was prevalent. You'll see that in the story. To this day, and surely far into the future, it will remain as a basis for endless variations of storytelling. Mary Shelley's wish that it not be forgotten has been granted to her in full by history itself. This masterpiece deals with 2 essential elements of the human condition: life and death. Frankenstein's creature is a creature of fear, to be sure, but more importantly, it is one of pathos, compassion, and pity. And there lies the author's stroke of genius. Like the giant behemoth, it walks the earth unknowing of why it is here, nor from whence it came. So let us now revisit the tale that the gentle and 19-year-old Mary Shelley unleashed upon the world. A tale of fantastic ambition and what resulted. Let us revisit Dr. Frankenstein's plan. The gypsy festival in the village, the sacred wedding ceremony, the creation of a living man, and the lessons to be learned from reckless ambition. I present to you the Orchestra of the Macabre under the direction of Maestro Scott Udenberg, with narration by Michael McShane in this afternoon's performance of Mary Shelley's classic, Frankenstein.
The hour was late as the spidery hands of the grandfather clock pointed towards midnight. The dull tick of the pendulum sounded a hollow echo in the dark chamber where two icons of their day, the poets Percy Bysshe Shelley and Lord Byron, stood gazing out the tall Gothic windows at the fury of a thunderstorm. The windows rattled in the heavy winds as they looked up towards the thunderclouds, filling the room with flashes of light. The two often met at Shelley's estate on a mountainside in the north of England to discuss poetry and their thoughts on future works. Tonight was different, however, for Shelley's wife Mary had come from her bedchamber and joined them, for it seemed she was frightened by the fury of the storm. By nature, Mary was a gentle lady with grace and dignity. Shelley studied his wife's appearance with concern as the flashes of light through the tall windows illuminated her face. He spoke as he held her close. "My dear, you have a ghastly pallor about you." "Don't be frightened," Byron added. "It's only a storm. Mother Nature's assurance that she rules us all." Byron laughed, but saw that Mary was still solemn. "It's not the storm that fills my soul with dread," Mary answered. "In my chamber I awoke suddenly from a dream that leaves me shuddering, a fantastic dream from the devil himself, filled with blasphemy." Byron took pity on the gentle Mary in her husband's arms. Now, what so ghastly could have come from so gentle a lady, whose disposition is known by all to be as pleasant as a bright spring morning, or as peaceful as a soft winter night? Just then a distant clap of thunder again brought a flash of light streaming upon Mary's face, revealing a tear upon her cheek. Shelley comforted his wife as he led her to a couch in front of the window, looking out into the night. "Tell us, my dear, what of this horrible dream stirred you so that you tremble in my arms?" Mary hesitated. Then Byron spoke. "Yes, gentle lady, tell us both, and it will help." And so began the story you're about to hear, of one whose ambition drove him to assume the work forbidden to man, and in so doing was driven from his fatherland. The old Baron von Frankenstein was a highly respected figure throughout the German countryside. He raised his son, Henry, on a large estate in a valley, in view of an ancient and abandoned castle on the summit of a nearby mountain, the castle of their ancestors from centuries ago. Henry, soon to be married, was a loner and a quiet sort, quite to the dismay of his father, who wished his son to rise in government affairs. But Henry was taken by science and was often found alone. Reading through scientific manuscripts, he was able to obtain from the university that he had attended as a young man. But underneath his mild demeanor, he held a secret ambition as a result of his studies, an ambition that no one could be allowed to know. No one but Fritz, a mentally weak but devoted lifelong servant to his master. Fritz was hunchbacked and walked with a crippled gait, and for his devotion, Henry gave him much attention and even at times confided in him. As the weeks passed and Henry's wedding slowly grew closer, there was an apparent change in him, more secretive and even more reclusive. But no one, including his father, ever seriously questioned it, assuming that it was simply his own way. After all, he spent hours each day in his study. It is now that we must reveal what really took possession of him, driving him to ambition unfit for any man. Over time, and with the help of his servant Fritz, there was collected a gruesome lot of body parts stolen from graves of the dead, now hidden and stored in Castle Frankenstein. Henry had constructed a theory that led to the creation of life itself, a living man. A laboratory had been fashioned from instruments that he had sent from distant provinces in large mysterious crates that rolled their way through the village below. These, the villagers thought, were just toys for the wealthy son of the Baron. After all, the Frankensteins owned a fortune. But with the last of the crates delivered, finally all of the connections to the generators could be completed. The laboratory was ready, the instruments all cross-checked, and were operating perfectly. Through the high Gothic windows, the clouds could be seen drifting by. For Henry, nothing could stop him now. The local village was steeped in gypsy traditions gathered over hundreds of years. One of these was the yearly autumn festival in which all of the citizens took part. From his balcony, the Baron von Frankenstein threw ribbons to the people below as the sound of music, song, and dance filled the town square. Elizabeth, Henry's fiancée, appeared on the balcony alongside the Baron, but curiously, without her future husband. Henry had planned to arrive and join her later in the afternoon after his work had finished for the day. The Baron was disgruntled by Henry's absence. "What does my son do all day long and into the night in that confounded old castle? Doesn't he know he has a fiancée?" the Baron exclaimed. Elizabeth patted his hand to reassure him. "I will go up there and see what this is all about. You could be sure of that." Elizabeth answered seemingly unconcerned. "Now, you know, dear Baron, that you must not attempt such a difficult climb up all of those steps. Your heart would not withstand it." "Nonsense," the Baron replied. "We Frankensteins do not get where we are today by being a bunch of weaklings." "Please, let it be," Elizabeth returned. "He is content in his work, and that is all I care about. Something great will come out of all his labors, I know." Elizabeth did love Henry very deeply, and she realized that he was a sensitive man. But even so, she had begun to worry more and more about his increasing isolation. Meanwhile, the gypsy bands gathered on the square and began to play. and oh, until I know. True or not, you'll never know.
Caravans, far as you can see.
By the wind and the sea. Caravans, far as you can see. Calling heaven for me.
Caravans, far as you can see.
Calling by the wind and the sea. Caravans, far as you can see. Calling heaven for me. Joy of life, so I'm full. I found right in your heart and soul. La 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 la. We never bother with success. We never want for more or less. We live our lives in excess. La 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 la.
Caravans, far as you can see.
Calling by the wind and the sea. Caravans, far as you can see. Calling heaven for me. Joy of life, so I'm full. La 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 la. I found right in your heart and soul. La 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 la. We never bother with success. We never want for more or less. We live our lives to excess. La 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 la. Henry never showed up. Waiting for Fritz in the old castle, Henry paced impatiently at the bottom of the stairs leading up to the laboratory. Just as he was about to go out into the night and seeking him out, he heard the shuffle of Fritz's feet outside the heavy wooden door. have you been, you fool? It has been hours. I told you the specimen must be fresh and transplanted into the body without any risk of the tissue drying. Fritz released the leather straps that held safe the precious specimen in the heavy glass jar that he had stolen from the medical school at the university across the valley. You are certain that no one saw you? No one followed you? Henry demanded as he stared at the delicate contents in the jar. No one, master, Fritz answered nervously. I swear, no one. He seized the precious container with its contents and without delay ascended the stairs carefully toward the laboratory high above as his voice faded into the darkness. The brain! At last, the brain! Now the final step! The final step! But Fritz, still lurking below, did not dare tell his master all that had happened from far from the university. He had delivered an abnormal brain. Having dropped the normal specimen and destroying it, he tore off the label on the remaining jar, which read, Diseased Specimen, Criminal Brain.
There is no means of thinking straight. Only thoughts of fear and hate.
Days passed with no sign of Henry, until one evening, as a rain began to fall, there appeared at the castle door the Baron, Elizabeth, and the village constable, Herr Schmidt. The Baron, insistent. I am going to get to the bottom of this once and for all. Elizabeth, worried. I have not slept, my darling, for days. And the constable, suspicious. What exactly is the nature of all these crates that come through the village? Henry was forced to lead them all to his experiments. There in Frankenstein's retreat, the three unwelcome visitors beheld a spectacle that left them speechless. The content of all the crates was now revealed to them all. Here was a laboratory lined with generators, tangled wires, gauges, and meters, while high up above their heads, Fritz, on a high platform, maneuvered a gantry that slowly lifted a structure that held an unseen figure silhouetted through the transparent ceiling panels against the black sky above. A storm was brewing rapidly as a thunderclap rattled the test tubes and glass breakers surrounding them. The winds outside squealed through the cracks in the ceiling as lightning flashes bounced across the great stone walls of the castle. Another clap of thunder, and another, and still another. Do you hear that? Henry shouted to the three, gazing stupefied and bewildered at what they saw. Fate has seen to it that you should see it all happen. Then, looking up at Fritz again, he shouted, Release the turbines! What is this madness? The Baron exclaimed. You call me mad, Henry answered. I have come to know how they talk of me in the village, and now you! He approached the large generator underneath the figure high above. Look above! the energy from this room will allow the generators to produce the rays with the power to create life itself. Such sacrilege, Herr Schmidt shouted vehemently. You're mad. So, you think I am mad, do you? Henry grabbed the large, heavy lever beside him and pulled it into position. We shall see who is mad. All this, these are the results of my experiments. Then a deafening whirring noise from the turbines echoed through the massive room, and as he spoke, he opened the huge generators to full power as flashes of light intensified through the sky windows, lending a gruesome picture to the figure suspended above. And after what seemed an eternity, Henry released the great lever and the gantry began its slow descent as Fritz strained under the burden of the pulleys. There in the dim light, they beheld the figure of a living man. It breathes, Henry exclaimed, raising his arms to the sky. It's alive! It's alive! I have done the work of God! What has madness done today? Over the following weeks, neither the Baron nor Elizabeth revealed to anyone what they had seen. But the constable, Herr Schmidt, in a secret meeting with the local police, informed them of it all. with strict orders to keep the entire thing quiet for a fear of panic amongst the people, should they hear of so fantastic a thing. Now there was a change apparent in Henry. He was more content, almost apologetic for his behavior. Now he planned to write up his results to the medical societies of Europe. He felt his creation to be safe and secure in Fritz's hands. Elizabeth, for the first time in months, felt again settled. Even the Baron, at first reluctant, came to see the renown that would come to his son throughout the scientific world. But Herr Schmidt remained cautious and unconvinced, for he had seen the brutal power and size of Frankenstein's creation. Upon visits to the castle, where Henry would reassure him. But Elizabeth saw the creature differently. In its eyes, she saw great sadness. On the few occasions when she was allowed to visit the castle, she would peer through the barred opening of the heavy door that kept it confined in the cellar far below the laboratory. It was always the same. The creature in the far corner of the dimly lit chamber, gazing bewildered at the stone walls and stroking the ugly, raised, dark scars that crossed its face. From its lips came only the moans of pain and confusion. Elizabeth felt pity for the great thing that was forced to be born. Meanwhile, the wedding day had finally come, with sacrament, love, and rejoicing. After the wedding, Henry spent much of the day with his wife as he wrote up the details of his experiments to be presented to an unaware scientific world. But Fritz again had done badly, for he was jealous of the creature, demanding all of his master's attention. Kept in solitary and now bound in chains because of its great strength, Fritz tormented the creature, startling it with flames from the torchlight and keeping food from just beyond its reach. Then one day, just before dawn, the creature seized him and, forcing his way out of the castle, threw Fritz's body over a ledge into the river far below. The creature's eyes, for the first time, beheld the out of doors and the light of the moon. Now, filled with rage, hunger, and fear, it slumped its way into the darkness of the woods. The next morning, when Henry discovered that Fritz was nowhere to be seen, the vaulted chamber where the creature was kept was empty, and the heavy door broken from its hinges. His deepest fears came now to haunt him again. Soon Herr Schmidt's office became flooded with angry villagers complaining that their animals had been slaughtered in the night. Reports from the gypsy camp on the edge of the village told of a strange man or animal wandering the countryside.
Shut the door, loose upon us, evermore, loose upon us, loose, 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 loose.
The constable knew immediately what was happening, and at that time it had come for the village people to learn of Frankenstein's creation. But soon he found that the people were all well aware of this. Strange lights from the castle Frankenstein were seen flickering down the mountainside in the night. Fritz's body was discovered by an old gypsy woman in the river below the castle. Unsettling rumors spread that there was a murderer amongst them. Then, into the village, in the bright sun of midday, a peasant carried his lifeless daughter Maria, who had been found in the woods. Gathering outside Herr Schmidt's office, the angry villagers demanded to hear from Frankenstein himself. He is the only one, they demanded, who can answer to this. Like a volcano, the village erupted. And as the sun set on an angry day, and Henry fearing for his life, the hunt was on for Frankenstein's monster. Elizabeth and the Baron held one another in fear as the mob, Henry, and Herr Schmidt at the lead, stormed out of the village square to comb the countryside. Scraping every inch of the valley and mountainside, at first the monster was nowhere to be seen. Throughout the night and the next day, still nothing. Blackness covered the dense forests on the second night. With fear and fatigue, the anger for revenge only grew. But then there it was, standing motionless and bewildered, its huge frame against the moon high atop the deck of the old windmill. The monster found. It made no attempt to escape, moving not even slightly as the crowd approached. The glow of the torches lent an eerie light upon its face as it stared down silently at Henry in front of the crowd. And as the torches set fire to the old windmill, the flames creeping higher and higher, the monster peering down at his creator, slowly raised his hands to the sky, as if, they later said, to ask, why? The monster's screams were something one could never forget. And so it was that night. The tale of Frankenstein's creation came to an end. Soon afterward, the old Baron died, and Henry and his wife left the village and were never seen again. When Mary had finished with her story, the storm outside had calmed as the moonlight sifted into the room through the broken clouds. "That is a chilling tale of which I have never heard the like," Byron solemnly uttered. "This will live beyond us all," Shelley added. Mary looked into her husband's eyes and sadly spoke, "It must." Whenever night is full and dark and wind and storm take hold, there are those painful lessons learned for those who will not hear.
Hear the tale of Frankenstein where madness took its toll. Those who dare a course to roam where no one else has trod.
When there is a lack of piety with little course for cure. Hear the tale of Frankenstein, who played the role of God.